All right, back for part two here. And here we go. Still, the user hasn't been given a chance to change anything before the processing. This is where a button often comes in handy. But there are other ways to do this too, probably. There's probably a way that you could process as soon as the user changed something on your website, right? As soon as somebody clicked it, maybe you could process it right away. But I don't think that's what you want. I think you want the user to use, and then clicking on that button signals that the user's done, is ready to move on with life. Um, so probably that's okay, just to use our submit button. So let's get back to our submit button. So notice we're using some JavaScript now, or some jQuery, of course. So let's, on our, I think I'll just copy it, right? Why not? Just copy that, put that into our code. Notice that my code has code 2 on it. Your code should probably will have code, just code there, or it doesn't matter what it says. You just have to make it match yours. So what do we got? So button.click function. Notice that I can get rid of that early one here because this is the same thing. And instrument equals document. So that grabs all of them, and then this is going to process it when the button is clicked. Now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to check and make sure that I just have the same ID. Remember, in jQuery, the hashtag means an ID, a dot means a class. So let's check that out. Button is down here somewhere. Button, yeah, ID.button. And make sure that I have my Java jQuery line in there. Yep, there's the jQuery line in my HTML, so I'm good to go. So let's see if this is going to work. I saved it. Yeah, I did save it. Good. So right now, I'm clear that. Nothing's going on. And so I'm a drummer, and then I'm going to process it. So there. And that, of course, hitting that submit button, and all I did was console.log, but that's not what we want to do. That's to signal that processing could have happened. Here, the console.log is just proving that we've got that data in our program. I don't think that one works. No, it didn't. See, that one's a fake one. And that's all good. Okay, that worked great. We really don't want, that's exactly what I just said. Um, we don't really want to console.log stuff. That's just to make sure the code is working. Plus, we want all the other selections to be processed too. So on our web page, we're going to add code to do the accessories and to do the drop-down menu and so on. And of course, we could have more things here. We could have more checkboxes, or we could have text boxes or text areas. We could have all sorts of GUI elements. Important logic note. Often when processing GUI elements, it's important to make sure that one of the radio selections is checked, or else an error message should be given, right? So this idea of back on our web page, remember we put in that the lead guitar, or one of the guitars, I can't remember, was the default, right? In our code, we set one of them to be checked. Lead guitar was checked. If we didn't do that, and I process, right? It's actually processing nothing, right? Because none of them are checked. And it could be that should be an error message. A radio button often is the fact that one of them has to be checked. You can't process without one of them being checked. So this statement in the note is just making you aware of that. And a sneaky, lazy way around that is to simply give a default selection, like in our example. So a easy way around it, so that there's no error message worried about, is to just make one of them a checked, right? So if this is going to be the default, we could put that in as the default, and you can do that in your code. I don't think it was on the original code. Back in the note, it says the CEMC example there gives a better, more thorough way of handling whether selections have been made using the Boolean variable none. So check that out, okay? I'm not going to go there. You should pause the video, check that out, and come back. And then it says, this is perhaps a little further than we need to go for our programs, but you are welcome to include this sort of proper checking. This is the proper way, and this is the lazy way. And I don't really care which way that you decide to do it, but it's something that you have to worry about. Okay, we could process the checkboxes in the exact same manner as radio buttons. So we could, if we wanted to, have another loop, another for loop that once we get all of the accessory check boxes, we could have another for loop and then process them that way. We could. So probably with the way this is worded, that's not what we're going to do. Since more than one can be selected, we need to process all the selections. So here's that sort of thing. There's grabbing the array of elements, and this is like building a sentence of accessories. So let's copy that too. I think we move on and do this a different way that's maybe a little slicker, but let's put that in our code. And it's in the button processing code. So here, there's our accessories. Oh, by the way, this has to be out of the button click because we want to grab, I guess it doesn't matter too much. We could, I guess those could be in the loop. It doesn't, or in the click processing. I don't think it matters. The elements by name, was that called stuff? Is it called stuff? Name is stuff. Yep, good. Dandy. Save that. Process it. See that it works. See what's going on. Notice rhythm guitar was the default selection, bassist with the snake in the top hat. And then notice that that's not printed out. Why not? Because we're actually not printing it out. If I wanted to print it out, I could console.log it. List of stuff. I think we're going to get fancier here before the end of the note. Yeah, see, and then it console log the list of accessories along with the fact that this rock star is a singer. Okay, so I bet you we fancy it up here at the end. Note that the following line, used in the CEMC lessons, accomplishes the same thing with a little more flexibility. So this line here grabs all of the input boxes that have a name of stuff, and by doing it this way, this grabs the array of them, but it could be any HTML tag. This could be a P, LI, it could grab anything from your page with an ID or a class or a name or a type, and that's how we specify it inside the square brackets. And we saw this sort of setup in the Code Academy videos as well. So this should look somewhat familiar. So I'm going to show you that works. Instead of having this line, have the line that I just had, same sort of thing. It still works. I'm not even going to run it. What's next? Finally, because we actually did that, I guess. We're going to move on to processing the drop-down menu, right? Which was, how do I deal with whether the person was a singer or not? And notice there's a little bit of a logic thing. If you say that you're the lead singer and lead guitarist, is that possible? Or could you say that you're the singer here but not the singer there? Well, in our example, it's going to be yes, but that's logic that you could add to your JavaScript program to make sure that there's no errors that way. But this is just a goofy example, so we don't really care. So here's the little loop that we're going to use. I'm just going to copy it, and I'll come back and talk about the details later. In our code, this is in the button, this is the process button, so we're inside that. We have the var sing document equals query selector all option name sing. So these are option tags, because in our HTML, that's what the drop-down menu was. It was these options, the value there, and notice that they all have the same name, so I can process them all at the same time. And that's what this says, right? The name is sing, and the HTML tag was an option tag. And then it goes through and processes it. Notice if sing I dot selected for radio buttons and checkboxes, this was checked. For options, it's selected. Notice it's still the dot value though, and the sing statement is there as well. So I'm going to save that, show you that that works, and I'm actually just going to console log it out. That my sing statement. Actually, that won't work like that. That won't work like that because this variable only exists in this loop. So I'm actually going to define it out here. And then just assign it in here. Save that. Let's see if that's going to work. So let's say base with skeleton and whatever it is that Neil Young does. Get this to rock and roll. Okay, what sing statement is not defined? Of course, I spelt statement wrong when I typed it, didn't I? I said statment. And did you see that? Well, thanks for warning me again. That's two major boo-boos this lesson. Okay, so let's do that again. The bass player that has a skeleton, and so bass, skeleton, whale. And I can change this now and it'll work again. And there's those three. Now, of course, we're going to fancy up the output for our exercises and our assignments. But just back here, notice that this query selector all with this in here, we could just use get elements by name. And with, of course, with sing inside the brackets there. Note that the Boolean for options, for drop-down menus, is selected, not checked. I mentioned that. And this statement just picks the value from the HTML. So the dot value, remember, was what we assigned in our HTML back here. It just grabbed that word, the value, and these are all made up stuff that I chose, and that's what we're assigning. Once the data is in our JavaScript, we can do anything we'd like with it. We would change the text, we could add pictures, we could save it to a file. Well, it'd be nice if we could save it to a file, but we can't actually do that. We're not going to get that far. But we could fancy it up a little bit. We could change our web page so all the data gets displayed on the web page rather than going to the console, which console kind of stinks. Something like this. Let's try, just bear with me just one more moment, just so we can sort of see what this is here. So instead of console.log, we could do something like this. String statement equals none. Then we're going to have one statement. And notice what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some jQuery. And I'm going to append some, and this could be a P, it could be a picture, doesn't matter. Some words here. Your rocker has plus list of stuff just concatenating a bunch of stuff here. Comma, plays plus instrument plus, because in this case, if the sing statement is no, but doesn't sing. Else, same sort of thing, but we'll paste. Your rocker has a list of stuff. Plays instrument plus, and then let's have a little grammar there, plus sing statement. And then end our sentence with a period, of course. Oh, the other thing we need to do is end our H2 tag, right? Did you notice that? Should have an ending on our H2 tag. See how that looks right there. There's the end of that statement. Up here, I got to go back and put in my end of the H2 tag. Otherwise, that's not going to work. And the end of that statement. So if sing statement is none, we'll do it that way. And let's hopefully that works. Let's just see. Maybe pretty that up. Get rid of the console log so we're not seeing that. Let's go reload that. A bass player with a snake and is the backup singer. And an error message didn't work. Let's see what happened. I spelled something wrong. Inst is not defined. Okay, where is that? Maybe did I call it INSTR? Where is it? Oh, I didn't even grab it, did I? Here. We want the inst to be equal to that. There was no value, so now instead of printing it to the console, it's going to grab it and I'm going to use it later. All right, let's see if that works. All right, bass player, top hat, and a snake who's a backup singer. Your rocker has a snake and a top hat, plays bass, and backup. Maybe sings backup. And of course, in here now, this is your task, of course, is to goof around with this until it looks right, right? And you can play around with that as you wish. This, I think, the first exercise is to get this working. The second exercise is to get the code working with your old character, and that's it for today. Have fun with that.